Welcome to the Islamic Library Association. We are dedicated to showcasing Muslims' rich contributions to literature and society while advocating for accurate representation and equity in libraries. Hello and Assalamu alaikum. My
Like,
name is Khalisah Harris. I'm a librarian and the founder of the Islamic Library Association. Through this work, we advocate for equity in libraries and public spaces, ensuring accurate representation of Muslims while highlighting the incredible contributions Muslims have made and continue to make to the literary landscape. This channel serves as a space to celebrate and amplify Muslim voices, recognize Muslim contributions, and promote the diversity and perspectives within society. Today, we're joined by Miss Aisha AbdulRahman. Aisha is an archivist, digital preservation specialist, and entrepreneur. She's the CEO of Legacy Planning and Preservation and the founder of Legacy Design Studio. Through her books and YouTube channel, she explores genealogy, storytelling, and reconnecting with her Sierra Leone roots. Grounded in her Islamic faith, Aisha is dedicated to preserving legacies and empowering communities. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha. How are you doing today?
Walaikum salam, Khalisah. I'm doing good, alhamdulillah. It's been a long day, but I'm doing good.
Yes,
Making
good.
progress, I say. We're having a lot of progress today.
That's good. Well, I'm definitely honored that you are fitting us in throughout your busy schedule. Your expertise is very impressive and it's not often heard of. So let's just dive right into it.
Okay.
Uh, can you share a bit about your educational background and what led you to work in archiving, preservation, and genealogy?
Okay. So before coming into library spaces, I homeschooled my kids for about 13 years. And while doing that, I worked doing web design. And I was looking for something new to do. And I've always loved learning and research. And so I said, well, I should go and see what it's like to work at a library and take some library classes because I like to read books. And I found out that that's definitely not what libraries do. I thought I was just going to be sitting behind a desk reading books all day, with a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Um, I took a cataloging course, and cataloging is very much like the SEO of web design. Cataloging helps you to find the research and the resources that you're looking for.
Hmm.
And so after I took that library certification program, I really liked it and went ahead and got my MLIS. Um, as I progressed through my MLIS, I kind of waned back and forth between the more techie side of myself and my hobby of genealogy. I've been doing genealogy research for about 25 years as a hobby. I did my research, as you mentioned, I reconnect to my roots in Sierra Leone. So I decided to focus on heritage and culture preservation while also taking a genealogy course. So iSchool doesn't really have per se anything for genealogy, nor is it required as a genealogist. Um, but I really have been just reconnecting to my roots for so long. It just felt like that's the space that really fit for me. So I've leaned towards the heritage and cultural preservation based on my genealogy background.
So you do several things. What does a typical workday look like for you?
So because I specialize in digitization, you guys might see a couple of boxes back here. I'm trying to hide hide them. I basically spend the day just digitizing. So I have a couple of different scanners and different systems set up. I help museums, libraries, archives, and artists and creatives, as well as individual families with digitizing their records. So it can be objects, 3D objects. It can be documents, photos, as well as even audio or video. Um, Maybe you had someone who made family films, or you have movies or even cassettes that are recorded or VHS. So what I do is I take those and I digitize them. and I bring them into the tech space, the tech world, and then I then catalog them. So I have some clients, they have their own collection management system, or some clients that have me to create one for them. So that's where my web design skills kind of come in to place is I'll create something custom for them to manage their collection. So I've worked with the New York State Public Library and the Lewis Latimer Collection. And I've also worked with the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum, creating custom cataloging systems for them and the items of theirs that I digitized for them.
Wow. So
Yeah.
Muslims in general have a long history of preserving knowledge, from manuscripts to oral traditions. How do you see your work continuing that legacy today?
So for me, I feel like, or I will say I strive for my work to be continued in a more innovative tech space. I'm very right brained. Even though like I love literary and everything, I'm very much like a creative person. Um, and that's why I founded my nonprofit Legacy Design Studio. So I feel like for me, I take the traditional aspects of archives, like the things we would see, like the library in Timbuktu, and after they're digitized, I bring them into virtual and augmented spaces. So I've worked with the California State Railroad Museum. They have a big mural on the third floor. I created an augmented reality for them so people can then use their phone to scan the wall and bring up archival materials. So I feel like for me, leaning into the future, and we have AI and things like that, is really thinking 50 years, 100 years from now, how are people going to be accessing information? Um, we're doing away with, people having physical books and physical items. Everything's online, everything's in the cloud. So for me, I've kind of, because of my love for sci-fi, I lean heavily into that aspect of tech, but in a kind of creative way. So I kind of look at the past and think of what were they thinking our future would be like if they were, to see the things that we're doing today.
Mhm.
What were they thinking in terms of innovation back then? And I kind of reverse it and ask myself 100, 200 years from now, what are we experiencing today that needs to be archived for the future? And how will they be accessing it?
That's that is amazing. So what you do with these projects and how you say you switch things from, you know, a sci-fi perspective with your creative spin on it, things like that. These projects that you're doing, how do they reflect both your professional goals, personal interests, and their faith values?
So everything you'll notice is legacy. So you'll see I have legacy lab, I have legacy design studio, I have legacy planning. So the Prophet ﷺ says that if you want to be successful in this life and the next, you need to leave a legacy of knowledge, a legacy of ongoing charity, and children who will pray for you. So that's pretty much
Mm,
my life goal. Um, and so I have everything named legacy to kind of remind me of my purpose. What is my why? And it kind of just directs me and guides me in what am I doing. So I try to work backwards and I say, okay, this is the goal that I have. What are the things that I'm doing to make sure that it aligns with that end goal?
mm.
Yeah.
That's very good. It's very true as well. How has your Islamic guided the way you approach preserving culture, memory, and identity, especially like you said, with AI and how the modern digital world is evolving?
I think because I don't work with Islamic or Muslim objects, I have kind of been able to sit in spaces where they were doing projects like that and kind of more so be as a guide or um, another perspective. So, for example, there was a library who was creating an event and they were doing things for Arab culture awareness. And they had something about Ramadan. They were like, oh, we have these books and we got Ramadan. So I had to tell them all Arabs are not Muslim. That's not Arab culture. So I find that I may find myself in certain spaces where I'm kind of the Muslim consultant to kind of educate people. And then people ask me, "Oh, where are you from?" Because I wear hijab. They assume
Mhm.
I'm not American. I'm like, "Oh, I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from San Jose." Well, where are your parents from? Baltimore, Maryland. Well, where are their parents from? Virginia. So I find that I'm having to educate people on what it is to be a Muslim of African descent. And then I do get to share with them, even though traditionally I don't know where I'm from, I was able to trace it through genealogy research. Um, and of course, it's always interesting to people because it's not something very common that we've been able to do. But yeah, I find that my Islamic values, especially when you talk about ethics and things when you're providing access to information, I think everything just kind of ties back to our Islamic values and things like that. But I haven't worked specifically with any Muslim libraries or Islamic libraries. I have worked with some Islamic art galleries in the past. Um, but it's always fun. It's always a diverse type of information that I get access to. But in terms of being Muslim, I've more so served kind of as a fly on the wall, I guess.
So you feel that Muslims are accurately or equitably represented in the archives and collections that you were able to work with? Even though I know you said you haven't been specifically dealing with Islamic collections.
Um, I would say no, because I feel like there's still a lot of information that the public doesn't know. I think within the Muslim community, sure, in our own little bubble, yes. But I think just in like public libraries or even sometimes even in academic libraries, there's still not a lot of information of what is an American Muslim? What do they look like? I've had people tell me, "Oh, I didn't know there were Black Muslims," or "I didn't know Black people could be Muslim." So
And the largest racial group of Muslims in America.
yeah, and they'll mix up Sunni Islam with the Nation of Islam or five percenters and things like that. So I think
Mhm.
there's just another education component that needs to go with it. Um, I've done research on like, other libraries and archives in like Cairo or Senegal or Tunisia. And of course, those are predominantly Muslim communities. And so, of course, they know what Islam is and they know what's Muslim and what's not. But I feel like in the West, in the US, and maybe even in the UK, there's still so many questions on there's the stereotype of what a Muslim is. And I don't think people realize the diversity of um what a Muslim is. So my husband, he can go under the radar. People don't know that he's Muslim unless you know his name. So there may be coworkers or people that you work with that are Muslim and you don't know because they don't look like the stereotype.
Again, within your experience, do you believe that more Muslims should consider entering a field of archiving to help preserve our existence pretty much, especially as Muslims living in the West?
Yeah, I definitely advocate for it. I think that representation matters. I've shared the story with people. I've never had an African American professor or teacher growing up. I've never met in person any Muslim librarians. I don't see them. Maybe it's because of where I am in California. I'm not like in Philly or something like that. So I think that representation matters because it really made me hesitant to even try to get my MLIS.
Hmm.
And I was discouraged even by professors. They're like, "Oh, well, you're Muslim, you wear hijab, it's gonna be harder for you to get a job." And I was naive to kind of blow it off. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. This is 2025. That's maybe just their personal experience." But after I started applying for work, I was like, okay, it gave me some doubt. Like, are they not hiring me because I wear hijab? That doesn't make sense in 2025. And then as I got on LinkedIn and I started connecting with other Muslim librarians and archivists, I was like, okay, we're out here. I think people just don't know that we're out here. Um, so I think representation is very, very important. I think that it's not only important for us to work, some masjids have libraries, but to work in public and academic libraries, so that we are known to work, that we are part of the, library society and the library system. And then to also play our part of educating people. Um, not only about the difference of our culture and our heritage, because as we know, an Arab Muslim and an African American Muslim or an Asian Muslim, we all have different cultures, but we share the same faith. So people will get different information from different of us because we're not all the same. And I think that that's important for people to know, but they're not going to know it unless we are in those spaces, unless we put ourselves in those spaces.
Do you think librarians, both Muslim and non-Muslims, can support efforts to highlight Muslim voices and histories within their collections and programs?
I definitely think so. I definitely think so, especially public libraries. I think public libraries have a very special role that they play in society because people don't just go to the library for books. People go to the public library for social services, they go for homework help, you've got maker spaces. People go to public libraries for a lot of things. Um, During the lockdown, public libraries provide a lot of services and support for people. And I think that if public libraries have Muslims on their team or even just Islamic materials that are available as a resource, it will widen the community's knowledge of Muslims, maybe get rid of some of those stereotypes that they have.
Mhm.
And we won't seem so foreign or so abstract and mysterious to people. Um, so I know that public libraries offer English courses for a lot of immigrants that come here. But oftentimes, once those people learn English, they don't return to the libraries because books are not in their native language, and reading in English is very difficult. So I know of a few libraries that I've been to, they will tailor their collection based on the community that they're in. So you're a public library, but maybe you're a public library within a Russian community. So a lot of their collection will offer Russian films.
Mhm.
And I think that if they also consider the demographics of the people, like, okay, maybe you have a big Afghani community, maybe 75% are there Muslim, you should have some Islamic materials for them. So I think it really just takes education. So it could look like MLIS offering culture and heritage education as a component to, yes, I'm archiving culture and heritage items, but maybe I don't know about these diverse cultures that I'm
Mhm.
working with. There's no curriculum that includes the culture part of it. So a lot of, I won't say a lot, but a few people that I know are doing indigenous archives and indigenous libraries. And they themselves have to then educate their professors on the culture while the professors then educating them about the library part. And I think that as information specialists, there should be more information about culture and heritage, especially if that's your area that you're specializing in. Yeah.
Mhm. I agree 100%. Even within public libraries, when it comes to even, book selections and things like that. Librarians in positions to dealing with communities, whether it's behind the scenes or face to face, I feel that there should be a certain amount of cultural awareness.
Yeah.
And that knowledge base, whether it's through witnessing this or lived experiences, however it works, those types of people need to be in those positions.
Hmm.
And those are transferable skills. So let's say you're an archivist and they want to go into public librarianship or vice versa. Having cultural awareness whenever you're dealing with people, the public, communities, you have to have it. So, like you were saying just now, that you know someone who was actually teaching the professor, that's great. And I understand that there's teachers learn from their students and vice versa.
Yeah.
But I think that, like you mentioned, there really needs to be specific classes added into curriculums specifically within MLIS.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you mean. I had a diversity class with someone where I didn't see any diversity in each person. If I'm the
Yeah.
only diverse student in the whole program, and then
Right.
someone else who's fitting the majority of the class, how is that person teaching diversity? So as
Right.
a student, it was very interesting. Like, honestly, I could not even focus that much on the class because I was confused. Like,
Mm. Yeah.
and it's, no one can't teach anything. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying. It's just not only who the teachers are, but who are you recruiting? Not
Yeah.
only as the instructors, but also what schools are you going through to offer library science classes? Are you
Right.
only offering them in certain neighborhoods or in certain colleges where it's already
Mhm.
predominant? You know, who
Yeah.
are you reaching out to? Who are you
Right.
recruiting to join and move forward in MLIS
That's a
education?
good point. Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's ALA, not to bash ALA, but we are all about increasing access and being equitable and being inclusive. And like you said, but are they giving access to the education itself?
Yes.
So, like, I'm in Sacramento, California. We don't have a library science program. We do have a certificate program at the junior college, but it's the only certificate program. There are no other states that offer it. So what is it for someone who wants to get into libraries but maybe can't do the MLIS right away or is unsure? I just so happen to be able to take that certificate program. It's not offered anywhere else. It's the only place that has it. So I feel like they have a responsibility to make sure that more people have access to things, um, to make sure that even the library science education of itself is accessible to a diverse amount, different people and different demographics. Yeah, I
Definitely.
definitely agree. And I also noticed that we're working in the academic libraries. Some of the students were deaf,
Okay.
but none of the staff knew sign language. So I'm like, you have this demographic of students. There needs to be somebody who's like, okay, we need to educate them. Somebody needs to go take a class to
Mm-hmm.
get these skills
Learn sign
because
language.
that's
Yes.
something that you're responsible for. And I think that that's something that ALA could provide is be aware of the diversity that exists and offer that so that we can then support a diverse patrons. I
Yes.
just so happen to know very basic sign language and alphabet, so I was able to help, but I'm an intern and I don't work there. Why does the staff you have a group of students here that have been here.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't this something that somebody knows?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's from the root, like you're saying. And it's not about bashing ALA, it's a reality. They are the governing organization of all libraries throughout the country. And that it includes the accredited programs for the library information science.
Yeah.
So not only just the classes, but like you're saying, the accessibility of the classes in diverse areas. And also, once people do complete that degree,
Mhm.
hire them.
Yeah.
There's so many people who I know of color, different shades of color,
Mhm.
who have their MLIS and can't get a job in public libraries. And
Mm.
then if they do, if and when they do get a job in the public libraries, they get out of there so quickly. The
Mm.
culture within public libraries
It's
is
uncomfortable. Mm.
it's not good. So if we go
Yeah.
back to the root of libraries in America, you know, Black people weren't even allowed to read. So even when
Yeah.
things were no longer segregated, guess what was the last place to become
Yeah.
integrated? It was the library. And
Mm.
and the libraries are very elite. It's like an
Yes.
elite
Yes.
field. And that's fine. You can be elite. Yeah, you have the information. But if your statements are saying that you're equitable and inclusive,
Mhm.
where's the accountability? Because
Yeah.
even if you look at the majority of managers, okay, I happen to be uh, a woman of color and I'm Muslim and a public library manager, but that's one in how many?
Yeah.
One of how many? And the diversity is just not there, even for managers.
The higher up you go, there's less diversity.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And the higher up you go, that's who's making the decisions.
Yeah.
And they're not always face to face with the public. You're an archivist, but that's still that same it's like a framework. It's been designed without a real name and without
Yeah.
being acknowledged, but it applies to all of the fields of librarianship, including archive.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
People ask me what's the difference between libraries and archives. And I have the same degree. So I have the MLIS. I don't have the MARA. So the MARA is specifically for archive records.
mhm,
My degree is the library science degree. And what for me, what I did is when I decided, because all of my internships and everything was in libraries, I've never worked in archive other than the work that I've done on my own. And even
Mhm.
like you said, I graduated in 2023. It's 2025. I still have not had full-time employment. The only employment I've had is because I started my own company to get work.
Mm,
Um, but the difference that I tell people is libraries is published things. You know, you have periodicals, you have books, those are publications. Archives is the same thing, it's just not published. So it's like census records, government
mhm.
records,
Yes.
historical information, but it's really the same. It's information. It's just a different context of that information. Yeah.
Yes. Regarding information, you have written some books.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those.
Published 2 books. My first book is called Dive Deep. It's an art journal, and I was inspired by it because I did Girl Scouts for probably about 8 years. I managed a Girl Scout troop. I started a Girl Scout troop for my daughter with about 3 or 4 girls, and it ended up being a whole entire juniors, cadets, brownies, all these different levels at our masjid, to where now there's a waiting list.
Mm,
So it's really amazing. It really grew, but in the Girl Scouts, they have these books based on if you're a brownie or a junior or a cadet, and the people work through the books. And as you work through the books, you get badges like, oh, you did sewing or you did cooking. So my inspiration, I have to finish the series, was to create something similar for adults, something
okay.
that is about self care. So I went through a lot of I guess you could say existential issues, like what is the purpose? What am I here for? And it inspired me to get my degree in psychology. So I have a degree in transpersonal counseling, and I studied art therapy. So I created a book called Dive Deep. It's an art journal where you're reading the book, but then there's the workbook that you're actually working in. So you can do prompts, or you can paint, you could do mixed media. So technically it's one book, but I got the idea because that's how the Girl Scout books are, is you have your book that you're reading and you're learning, but then you have like a workbook, things that you're actually writing in and doing. Um, and then my second book that I published, I believe it was this year or 2024, is called Tracing Our Roots. It's a book about preserving, archiving your family history. So, doing the research. It also includes some chapters on heritage travel. So, I obtained my citizenship in Sierra Leone. I've been going back and forth, and I wanted to be able to share how I was able to do that, and the process with people. Now that you've done your DNA research, you've done your genealogy, what can you do with that information? Um, so that's what that book is about, and I'm really excited and happy and proud, to have recently published that book, and I wanna publish probably 1 or 2 more books, that are in my brain. Now that I have citizenship in Sierra Leone, I'm building houses out there, I'm learning the language, I'm learning how to cook the food and things like that, and I probably will write something maybe more like of memoir, um, about that, yeah.
Nice. So, how do these works help highlight the importance of Muslim storytelling and self-representation?
I think that they really highlight Muslim representation, especially in the genealogy space. Is one, there's not a lot of books specifically for African American genealogy research. It's one of the most difficult ways, or I guess you could say, areas of genealogy research. So genealogists will pick a location and a date and a time. Like they'll say, oh, 18th century genealogy research in England or in Washington, D.C. And then you have kind of the African American genealogy research. And there's the stereotype that, well, you can't get past the 1860s because of slavery. And so one
Mm,
of the reasons that motivated me to write my book is I've been able to do that. I've been able to get past 1860. You know,
yeah.
I've been able to kind of share, you follow the paper trail, but then you also have your DNA matches, how to use archival records, how to use census records and deeds and, estates, or even the Dawes rolls and the Freedmen rolls. How can you use that information to then research those who enslaved us? You have to research those who enslaved us if you want to
Right.
go past 1860, because we were property. And so then you have to look at their business
Mm,
records. So I was able to go to New Orleans and actually visit the um, plantation that my fourth great grandfather lived in. He rented it, but prior to that, he was enslaved there. But I wasn't able to find that if I hadn't looked at the slave owners'
Mm,
information and their business records. And when you go and you visit the plantation, they briefly touch on the fact that it was a slave plantation. It's all about it's a sugar plantation. This is
mm,
the history of the sugar business. This is the history of the family. They leave out the whole other entire part of the history of that plantation. So
mm.
I think
So
for people like
shocking.
me, if
Yeah.
you share that information, you have to make it available for others. So I created a YouTube series on my channel about that whole entire trip of going to New Orleans. And people are like, oh my gosh, we have the same surname. Maybe we're related. How did you go on this trip? Where did you find this information? So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book and share my process with people to inspire them and let them know it is possible. And I think for me, that has been my whole heritage journey is to just show people it is possible to get further back in your roots than you realize. It's going to take time. It's taken me 20 years to do so, but it depends on how important it is to you. But I do want people to know that it is possible. So that's why I wrote the book. Yeah. And I think that being African American, being a Muslim African American, um, it has challenges that other people don't have. So even reconnecting to my roots in Sierra Leone is majority Muslim country. I have Fulani roots. As we know, the Fulanis are a part of the Mali Empire. They're Muslim. Even though I'm a convert to Islam, it's just interesting that, okay, so that means, I had a fourth or fifth or sixth grandmother that was Muslim.
Yes.
So
Oh,
things like that are very empowering to me. Yeah. And I think to other people
definitely.
as well. Yeah.
Definitely. You mentioned several times heritage, legacy. These are
Mhm.
the terms that you're using to describe some of the experiences and hopes that you have. But when it comes to the idea of legacy specifically, how do you hope your work helps shape how Muslims are remembered and represented for the future generations? Because you did talk about how um, you have to think about that when you're doing some of the work that you do.
Yeah.
But how do you hope that it helps shape it into what?
Um, I'm honestly not sure. So I know that according to Islamic teachings is, we are strangers on this earth and we're going
Mhm.
to leave as strangers on this earth. And one of those things is people are not going to really know what Islam is and what that's going to look like. So I kind of feel like I try to leave my stamp on things. In my books, I always start out with, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In my YouTube videos, I always give salams and then I tell people what it means. So even though my content is not about Islam, I let people know that I am Muslim. For a while, I was using Aisha Ladan. Ladan is my middle name. I was using that on social media. People were calling me Aisha Ladan, Aisha Ladan. And I'm like, I want people to know I'm Muslim. And I think it was an afterthought. So I changed all my stuff to AbdulRahman. So
Oh,
even when I go to the store and I pay for stuff, people look at my ID. They're like, oh, AbdulRahman, are you Muslim? So little things like that, I don't think people realize makes a significant difference,
mhm,
especially looking like me. I'm not the stereotype of what a Muslim looks like. It's confusing. So I feel like just using, my last name, giving salams, educating people, just little tiny things. Um, it's even funny, even on social media, there's little jokes like, oh, that's what the Muslims say. So I feel like as people are interacting more with Muslims,
mhm.
they're educated and it doesn't become so foreign to them. Yeah.
You've done a lot of good work, a
Thank you.
lot of great work. I think it's very impactful. Um, I say all the time, and it's not just me, but in general, you have to put the past to be able to look forward. And
Yeah.
you're literally, literally doing that. So that is amazing. I much more present future. But I love
Yeah.
history, but I just never went into archiving.
Yeah.
But
We have a phrase in Creole, in Sierra Leone. They say, if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. So
mhm,
you don't know what side you go, you don't know what side you come out. So
mm,
you don't know if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. So I look at archives as like preserving the past and the present for the future. So I feel like I kind of have my toe in all of them, especially with the tech stuff. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's great. Well, I think you've done amazing work, and I look forward to seeing what you continue to do because I don't really. I think you'll be doing this for a very long time, one capacity or another, one way or another.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I definitely, because I feel like I've done it even without that intention of doing it. Like being
Mhm,
in virtual spaces, I was doing before I got into libraries and archives. So it's
mhm,
everything has kind of come full circle. So I feel like everything happens for a reason, alhamdulillah.
definitely, definitely, and like you said, it's not necessarily planned, but
Hmm.
we may plan, but Allah is the best of planners,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so for you to be in this field doing what you do, that's great.
Yeah. 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 Because definitely was not what I planned.
Yes.
Growing up, I wanted to be a fashion designer or interior decorator. And
Okay.
that's what I thought I was gonna do. I would sketch little girls in their outfits. That was what I thought I was gonna do. So Allah is the best of planners.
Well, yeah, that's all I had for you today. Do you have
Okay.
anything else you would like to add?
No, that's it. Just thank you for having me. I'm very excited and I am very happy to be a part of the Islamic Library Association. I think it's definitely needed. It's very important. Since I learned about you, I've been sharing it with people because I didn't know that it was a thing. I think that there are different types of library associations, and having the Islamic Library Association is going to be very impactful. So I'm excited to see it grow. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate your support.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're all together. It takes all of us.
Yeah.
It's not just my work or one person it's all of our work together, and that we're
Right.
here and
Yeah.
also representing the diversity within Islam itself when it comes to the different cultures. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
we can bond by way of faith opposed to just only racially or,
Hmm.
regionally or
And
library systematic.
I think not even necessarily by faith, but the Islamic Library Association can also educate non-Muslims. So those courses and things that we hope to see, we can maybe provide access or provide resources. And it can be for people who are not necessarily Muslim, but they
Hmm.
want to learn about the Islamic faith or they want to learn about what resources. So we can be a resource for public libraries or like, oh, we want to provide this information. We can guide them and provide those resources for them. Yeah.
Definitely. Because it's not only about us, the same way we can see other people in books and programs and services, the same thing. They should be able to see the Muslims, um, our stories based upon our voices, not what someone else said we are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like you're talking about the archives, oh, you can't go past this amount of time. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. And
Yeah.
you're doing that exactly, showing not only that it can, but that you've done it. And
Right.
so all of this matters. And it's just one, the Islamic Library Association is designed to be the one place where it can all be a designated place opposed to I'm siloed here, you're siloed there. And it's just one place,
Yeah.
almost like a one-stop shop to get everything that you need library-wise to help
Right.
represent Muslims, whether it's for Muslims to see themselves or for someone else to see Muslims for who we really are, but most importantly, who we are.
I completely agree. I think if you don't tell your story, somebody else is going to tell it for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that hasn't worked thus far.
Yeah.
Yes, but I definitely appreciate your time. I look forward to staying in touch, and I'll speak with you soon, inshallah.
All right. Assalamualaikum.
All right, inshallah. Join the Islamic Library Association, and together we can shape a more inclusive future for literature.